What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and we back with a Saturday Night Sit Down. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and we back with a Saturday Night Sit Down. And tonight, I got a very, very special guest. I have fitness and nutrition coach, a hell of a keynote speaker, and now officially the very first ever solo female guest on a Saturday Night Sit Down, Maria Rodriguez. What is going on here? How are you? How are you?
I am doing fantabulous. Thank you for asking. I am doing great. It's been a good week. It's been a great, great fucking week.
Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. I've been super excited about having this because it's been some time, right? A lot of people who know this show is, I focus really a lot on guys, right? Because I understand as a dad, and as a man growing up, it was really hard finding myself, trying to figure that out, trying to grow up, and looking out for different positive male role models. And a lot of my friends who didn't have their dads in their lives, and wanting to sit down with different men and show how the father figure, right, or that influences on them. But also, we all know, right, dads also have a very big impact on girls too growing up, right? And I knew that for myself because I knew when my sister got divorced, right, and my nieces had two little girls, and I was like, you know what, I know her dad's a great guy. He's always been around, but, I knew there was going to be something solid there. So I was like, I feel like I got to step up. I want to be a real good male role model for them to show them the do's and the don'ts and stuff like that. And as we know, not to fall in these loopholes, right? So I spent a lot of time looking, and I knew that a lot of women were asking me about this. They want to get an opinion, want to see some girls' insights. And I was like, I'm waiting for the right story. Like, somebody's got to hit me. Like, I'm waiting for that. And when I seen you talk about defying all your odds, right, at Dylan's event and everything that you've been through and your story and all that stuff and just the impact that your dad had on you and how all those things tied in, I was like, this is it. Like, this is the one I got to sit down. So I'm so glad that you said yes and you're here with me tonight.
Yeah, put your hands in the air.
So definitely awesome. So everybody, if you don't know, I'll let you to give a little feedback on your story, right? Let people know who Maria is and what she's about. Like I said, I know you're a hell of a speaker and you have an incredible story. So please let the world know about you. Yep, there you go. There you go. All right.
Technology, man. I'm telling you. Well, hello, everyone.
I know it.
How are you doing, Freddie?
I'm good. I'm wonderful.
Nice. Well, I guess I should introduce myself a little bit, right? My name is Maria Rodriguez, and I met Freddie through Dylan in Connecticut. I just realized it was like 1,200 miles from here.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? I am a certified fitness and nutrition coach for women, and I am a keynote speaker. I have been in the industry for a very long time. I'm officially in business for 3. And it's been a great overall. I've learned a lot about myself actually this year. It's like a roller coaster. I feel it's like whenever you get like on the roller coaster and you go up and then you go down and then you go up, and I'm learning what are my lows, what are my highs, what are my strengths, and what are my weaknesses. And so I'm just very blessed to be here with you today. I know this is going to touch somebody's heart.
Yeah, and I know it is. Like I said, I know a lot of people are going to resonate with your story and everything. And I want to go back because I know it all started, like you said, from defying your all odds and from just getting here, right, and starting your life in this country, right? And it really touched me because I know, like you said, you're coming here with your dad and he was crossing the Rio Grande and all that stuff. So, and I don't want to get away because I don't want to ruin that story. So please just, let people know exactly how it was that you got here and what that was with your dad.
I shared a little bit about the story, and there's so many other details that tied into what my father's role was. And first of all, I want to thank you for acknowledging that because sometimes it gets overlooked because, he passed away and all that stuff. But my father to me was a very big, he was a staple in my life. As when he passed away, I realized a lot of things about him. Obviously, I was not that old, but I remember I was his little girl. The way that he provided care and love is just something that I've never felt before. And as somebody that didn't grow up with that, I could tell you, it's been such a great impact. in my life to know that he was trying so hard to be like a role model. And
Mhm.
just him crossing me in the river, like in the river where so many people drown, just to give me the opportunity to live in the United States of America, like that to me is like the greatest gift. And I am always so grateful. And I know that if he were to be here, he will be super proud because he'll be like, look, we just didn't cross the river to almost die for her to not be
Right.
anyone. Like we crossed it, she did something. And I'm not saying that as Latino immigrants we should, you know, all be entrepreneurs, but we should always be very grateful and know where we come from and just not take any opportunities for granted. Just that, you know, I mean, I was 5 years old. What can a 5 year old tell you when she was crossed in the river and she almost drowned? You know, I developed thalassophobia because of that. Like I can't be in dark waters because of it. I can't feel comfortable going to the ocean, the river. If I can't see the water clear, I won't go in. But I would rather have that than to not have the opportunity to be in the United States.
Wow, and that's a bold statement to say, right? I mean, sometimes people they look at these experiences that happen to them and kind of like almost with regret or wish they didn't happen or anything like that. But everything that happens to us happens for a reason, right? Like when I say
Mm-hmm.
this constantly, like everything that happens is either a blessing or a lesson, right? We just got to
Amen.
decipher which one it is, right? So don't take it as negative. And it's so great that you see it that way, right? You know, and I have a soft spot to that because again for myself I'm 100% Puerto Rican, right? So growing up here, and I know a lot of my friends from different countries, even my wife, she's from Venezuela, right? So I understand from, you know, from other people and connections that it's not that easy to get here, right? I'm hearing these
Mm-mm.
stories and stuff like that, and I never take that for granted, you know. Like I used to tease my friends and they're like, oh, like when people would criticize me, like, oh, how'd you get here? And I'm like, I got here on JetBlue, man. I don't know what you mean, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like American Airlines, and that was it. Like, I don't know no difference, but I know that again, there's so many people risking their lives, you know, just to come here to give their family a better opportunity, right? And we really have to acknowledge those unsung heroes, right? And respect them for what they've done. So it's tremendous what your dad did. And like he said, he'd be so proud in seeing what you've become, right? And it's just at the beginning, right? There's so much more, right, to
Yeah.
come with the story of Maria. So well, with my show, like I like to tie it back to things, and like I said, being that you are the very first solo female guest, I need to change my questions a little bit around here and
Yes.
see that to really get the endpoint. So for number one, what I want to ask you, right, if you look at it for the characteristics of what it takes to be a good person, right, or a good human being, what do you think those are?
Lessons from my father. Respect is not given, it's earned. And so, in order for you to, it's the same thing with trust. You can't trust someone unless they give it to you. So, somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who shows respect, deserves mutual respect. Um, he also taught me, like, he taught me to be considerate of others. He taught me to be hardworking, to have strong morals, strong ethics. And that just ties in a lot what my mother taught me. My mother also taught me, you know, she struggled and stuff, but I feel like I learned a lot from both my parents, and I could tell you that we kind of model what we saw when we were little. So to me, being a good person was somebody who cared, somebody who respected, somebody who was trustworthy, somebody who had morals, somebody who had ethics, somebody who had strong what's that word? It's integrity. That's my favorite word, integrity.
Yeah, and those are all wonderful characters, and then it's true. Like respect and trust, right? You have to earn those things. And whenever I think about trust, I think about, and I know I share this story a lot, but you know, with my one of my best friends, my little brother, you know, I refer to him as, right? You know, he we just came to the block, and I'm knowing him for the first time, and you know, I'm bringing him to my room, and I'm showing him stuff around, and you know, and all these things, and then I hear the ice cream truck, and I'm like, oh snap, let's go get some ice cream. So we run outside, and I asked him a couple of times if he wanted something. And he was like, no, no, I'm good. I'm good. I was like, all right, whatever. So I get something, I go back home. And as I get back into my room, you know, and I close the door, he goes to me and say, hey, Fred, man, I'm so sorry. I can't do this to you. And I'm like, what? He's like, I know you showed me around and like you had like a bunch of these golden dollars in your desk. And I took a couple of them to get something, but I couldn't even do it to you. Like, I can't, like, you know, here it is. I'm so, so sorry. And that moment, I trusted him with anything in my life from that from moment on. Like there was nothing that I wouldn't trust him with because he, you know, that took a lot to step up to somebody face and do that. Like I just stole from you, you know what I mean? And that really forged a bond and trust with him like no other, right? And like I said, he earned it because he did that, right? Even though he did me wrong, but he earned that trust. But like, hey, look, admitted to his mistakes, came clean, and really was like genuinely sorry, you know. I, and like this goes back to like you said, you know, knowing those things, and that's one of been my closest people in my entire life, you know.
Amen. And you know what?
So.
Let me tell you. The Bible says we shall not steal. Thou shalt not steal from thy neighbor. But
Hmm.
stealing doesn't have to be something like stealing my AirPods or stealing my watch. It could
Hmm.
be stealing my joy.
Yeah.
You're stealing my peace. You're stealing everything. Like if you're stealing something from me, it could be my joy, my time. If it's
Hmm.
mine and you're taking it from me, or you're doing it with like a bad intention, I feel like you're stealing too.
Absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
awareness. You have to be aware of that.
Yeah,
It's a
and you
wonderful
know,
story.
and I shared a little bit, like you said, like too about like stealing, right? And like time, right? Like I didn't have a concept, and I kind of shared that with you. Like with my wife, really helped me to understand that, like how people were just stealing my time from me, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
even from us, you know, because I was in that mood where I only felt valuable if I was serving, right?
Mm.
So if I wasn't serving, if I wasn't providing a service or I wasn't doing it for somebody, then I wasn't valuable, right? So constantly people would call me up at any time of day. They knew that, like, and it would get her so mad, but they'd call me any time of day, like, Freddie, I need, and I'm up and out the door, you know, immediately, you know, because I just like I felt like I owed it to this person. But you know, that's kind of like you said, like helping to understand that, like people understood that and they took advantage of it. Not really to be harmful, but they know like I can call him for whatever, he's gonna come running, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
needed to learn to stop that, to have a better relationship with her and in our family. You know what I mean? Like it goes that way. I committed to you. I can't be running off every single time that somebody calls me, right?
Yeah.
Because that's stealing, like you said, stealing her time, her joy, her peace. So what is in it for her, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad that you kind of brought that up and saying about the timers. That's crazy.
Yep. Look at you. We're flowing in the same energy.
You know, and I was gonna say sit down, but I will see how it goes. I feel like, and I've said this like, the more I do a show, I know I have an innate gift when I come down with talking to people. Like it's very genuine and just chilling with me, and it's goes to a wonderful start. So I always get so excited with these conversations because they bloom into something that I never quite expect. So, but like you said, right, those are the things that you felt like being a good person, right? Integrity and being honest and stuff. Now, as a woman and seeing that, right, like, and you're looking for, if you're looking for a man, right, somebody for you, for your peace, or even for your son, right, because I know you have two kids, right? I
Yeah.
believe you said they're twins, right?
Yeah, they're twins. It's a boy and a girl.
Yeah, so look, that's it, one and done, like one shot.
No, I bought one and I got one free, Freddie. It was special. It was
It was the
special.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I said
For
it with my
Black
wife. It's so
Friday.
fun. Yeah, you know, and it's great. Like me and my wife, I tried. I do want another one, but I know we gotta have time and space. But you know, like I said, I got a boy and a girl, and you kind of like, you know, you don't have to, you know, try for anything else or like yearn because they're very different. But back to like you said, like even for or in that aspect, right? For your daughter and your son, you know, what kind of man do you want him to grow to be, or what kind of man do you want them to look for, right, or to have in their lives?
Well, the partner that I chose, um, before this, it's crazy that we're talking about relationships because I talk about my relationship a lot. I was like, how can I say this? I was not in tune with myself. Like when I was a dancer, and you heard the story when I was an entertainer, I was dancing for money, right? I mean, who in their not I'm not throwing shade at dancers, right? Because everybody has
Right.
a need. But at the time when I was in that space, I could be very honest and say I was not in tune with myself. I was not loving Maria for who Maria was. So I was dating men who didn't love me back, who didn't appreciate me, who didn't see my true value, who didn't see my true worth. And so all of my relationships failed, Freddie. All of them, because I was looking at the outside.
Hmm.
But when I started to realize that what I needed was a man with integrity, who was trustworthy, who was reliable, who was supportive, who was caring, who had good intentions, who was going to be a provider, who was going to be comforting me whenever like my days went bad, that's when I was like, okay, this is what I need, and that's exactly what I found. But I attracted that by being that same person to attract that other person. Because if I would have been a shitty partner, that person wouldn't be here. Like that person would have ran out the fucking door a long time ago because stripper Maria would have never been able to take care and nourish the relationship the way that current Maria has been doing it.
Yeah, it's huge to really know yourself, right? It's so important to know who
Yeah.
you are so that you don't fall into pitfalls. And I've been saying this for so long, right? It took me so like growing up, and I tried to fit into all these different places and adapt. And when I got to be an adult, and I'm starting to think about things that I enjoyed, and I'm like, wait, did I really like that because I liked that, or was it because of the people that were around me, or like what was that?
Mm.
And it took me a time, like I said, it was like 6 years when I got laid off, and it was really like alone again. And now I'm an adult. Like your high school friends and everybody you chill with on a day-to-day basis, everybody's off doing their own thing. They're living their
Mm-hmm.
life now. And it's just like now I'm just with myself and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know who I am.
Oh.
And it was scary, right? Like, and now I got kids and I'm like, okay, so I don't know who I am and I got kids and how am I going to teach them to be who they are? And I need to figure this out. Like I need to figure
Mm-hmm.
out what's going on with me because this is very, very dangerous.
Because they're watching everything that you're doing.
Yes.
As a
Yes.
mother, as a single mother, I'll tell you this much. I had to really take a look at who I was going to end up with and who I was going to be a role model for because my kids, my daughter wants to be like me. I don't even know this shit. Like my daughter wants to be like me. Like she wears my shoes. She's getting to the age where everything fits her. So like she's wearing my clothes, she's acting like me, and she's like, I want to do my hair like you. And I'm like, that's weird. Like I've never had a little sister that wanted to be like me.
Right, right.
So I was like, and then we noticed like, hey, she's doing a lot of things that you're doing because she wants to be like you. And so I was like, we had the conversation. I was like, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? She's like, well, I want to be pretty like you, and I want to make TikToks and reels. And I was like, that is so cute. Like you don't see who's watching you, especially your kids. You don't think that your kids look up to you, but they really do. And so it makes you think like, is this the kind of person do I want them to look at whenever I'm dating someone? Like I want them to look at me happy and I want them to see that relationships are not supposed to be toxic. Relationships are supposed to be nourishing, they're supposed to be supportive, they're supposed to be two people working together to make this a nice household where there's not going to be like, and I'm talking to the person or that woman or that man who's in a relationship and they're just talking shit to each other in front of your kids. You need to stop that nonsense. You need to stop that nonsense because those kids are going to be scarred for life. They're going to follow your steps. They always do. And
Yes.
this history is going to keep repeating itself. It's going to be a curse unless you break that pattern right now and you quit your nonsense.
Yeah, and that goes back to like you said, like knowing yourself, right? You need to
Mm-hmm.
know to, what you like, what you don't, and have those. My wife's posted something about that too, like, having standards, right? You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing. You just really need to do that so that people know that they can't mess with you, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's and that's why I love these conversations. Kind of there's so many things that's going on and so many things that are clinging right now. But like with my wife, right? When I met her in high school, I was at a point in my life, and this is why like I knew like I needed to be there because we talked about this right for the girls because I've gotten hurt so many times to a certain point that I got to that point where I was like, you know what, I don't care anymore, right? Like I'm off to one thing. I'm here to have fun, and instead I'm not gonna, and I learned how to play that game, right? And I learned the girls with daddy issues or people who didn't have that, how to push the buttons and how to go, and I got really really good at it, and when I met my wife, right, and I met her in high school and I was in that stage, I instantly knew I couldn't pull that with her. I knew it. Like, I knew I couldn't run that game with her. So I was like, I never really approached her
Really?
in that manner to try to get, like, so when and I say it to this day, like, when I first saw her, it was literally, I was coming across the hallway. I looked up, I seen her, it was like slow motion. I'm like, yo, I have to talk to this girl. Like, I don't know what it is, but I need to talk to her. And lucky for me, like my best friend was already talking to her, but I knew like not in that manner, right? Like they were just having a conversation. So I was like, this is an easy way in for me, So I got in and I was talking to her, and every day for math class, I was making sure I was on time. I was wait like every single day, but I never asked for her number. I never asked for her date. I never did any of those things because I think even subconsciously, like I knew that what like my game right now wasn't gonna work, right?
How
So
did you know that?
I don't know what it is. Like it was just her presence. There was something about her aura, like her presence, that I knew. Like she was so sure about herself. Like I knew it. Like you when somebody's confident, you just know, right? Like you can see it, and that's what it radiated off of her. And I guess that's what it was. Like I knew, like this is not one of those little sad puppy dog, you know what I mean? That you can kind of like coddle and be like, oh, and say sweet things and kind of like, no, it's not, So I
You can't sweet
really.
talk her.
Right. So I didn't know how to really approach it. So that's why I was like, let me just talk to her and just be, you know what I mean? But I never made a move. And I continued to go on to have these things. And frankly, with my mom, and I love my mom because I have a very open relationship with my mom. Like I can tell my mom anything and everything, like my mom, like whatever, right? So I
Yeah.
remember one time, and this is where it kind of started dawning on me, like my behavior and where I needed to change and grow up, right? So I was talking to my boys about, like senior prom and what we're going to do afterwards and all, that kind of talk, right?
Yeah.
And my mom smacked the shit out of me. Like in front of my
What?
friends and everybody, she was like, "You need to have way more respect for women and all." Like then, and I was like, okay, I got so small, I got so small, But then I was like, man, like I can't disrespect my mom like that. That's my, and that's where it kind of started to sink in, right? Where I was, what I was, what I was doing was wrong, and all those things, and then it really started to hit me home, as like I said, when my nieces, they were growing up, and I was always there. I was taking care of them all the time, like as much as I could possibly be there. And I was like, oh, we're gonna go, pick up my girlfriend or something like that. And they started listing a bunch of girls that I've talked to, and I'm like, no, no, no. And they're like, well, just pick one already. And I was like, oh, and they're watching, like they see, and I was like, I don't want them to get caught in that game.
Yeah.
So it really helped me mature. And I think that's when I started to grow and started to realize. And then when I got to that maturity, and then, I got out of a really bad relationship and I still had her. Actually, my wife found me years later, like on MySpace. She reached out to me on
On
MySpace.
MySpace.
Um, so so on MySpace, she
Why is
reached out
that?
to me and she gave me her number, and like every time I was going on and checking, it was always like a hit and miss, right? Like I would reach out to her and she was in a relationship or like vice versa. And and even at one point I was like, I was like, whatever, forget her man or vice versa. And even when I was with somebody that I didn't want to be with moving on, but I was like, I need to end this relationship. I need to cut off all baggage. I'm not going to enter this relationship like cheating on my girlfriend to be with you, because how was I going to build trust? Like you said, trust is earned,
Yeah.
right? Like how was
Yeah.
that going to build that trust? So I didn't do that, right? Like I really, really waited, and we finally, I shot her a text. I was like, this is it. Like I'm just out to her. Like if it don't work out, then whatever, I'm done. And it's funny because she was saying the same thing. She just got out of a relationship. She was like, I'm not going to get into, well, unless it's him. If he reaches out, then maybe. And it just so happened that we finally hit that time, and we went on dates for like, I didn't kiss her for 4 months. We went on dates to the movies, like everywhere. Like she was really,
Oh.
she was telling me, she's like, I really thought that I didn't know where I stood. Like I was about to just give up. And so, one night we in the car, like 2 in the morning, and I finally kissed her, and that's when everything just took off. But I needed to learn and go through all those relationships. I learned that, when a woman has that, because her dad was in her life. He was a very role model, and he taught her things, and she got to see that presence. She even developed and was just more mature in seeing that relationship. So she was very, very ahead of her game. And it's wild because I knew at that time in high school, and I'm gonna say this, I repeat it, I'm glad that I didn't ever try to make a move in high school, because then we wouldn't have this relationship. It would have failed
Yeah.
miserably. And I know it.
Oh. Because
You
now
know?
you know yourself.
Right. Now I know myself. Now I
You're
know
like,
who I am.
wow, if I would have tried some shit, she would have blocked me on MySpace, Facebook, Bebo. By the way, I was not 15, I was 13 when MySpace came out. And I did have a MySpace.
Oh, I
Had
had
the
to use,
background music.
yeah, I'm about to say that the background music with the little logos.
Yeah, yeah. You had to
Everybody was a programmer.
to put a freaking background and scroll. It was great, man. Good old times.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. No, the top eight, you know what I'm saying? Like, why ain't on your top of word? Like, you took me down. Like,
Good old
but yeah.
times.
Yeah, man. And it was a lot, but it was that, like you said, we had to take time to know ourselves and grow and learn and develop and find ourselves. And that's when I knew. And like I said, the relationships that I were in and they failed were great lessons, right? They taught me everything that I did and didn't want in a relationship. So that, again, like perfect example. And like I said, this in the other night, like one of my ex-girlfriend, I called home one day and we were living together, and like she was like, three dudes in my house. And I'm like, who are they? And she's like, oh, they're my friends. I'm like, what, they got names? Oh, well, I don't know their names. And I'm like,
They're your homeboys and they don't know the
and you don't
names.
know their names, and I'm not, so whatever. So obviously that didn't work out, right? So when with my wife, we're married, and I set up an appointment for like the cable to get installed or something. And I'm in my head, I'm like, word, we're gonna get the internet today. I'm about to go home and play PlayStation and stuff, whatever. And I get home and I'm like, what happened? Like, where's the equipment? Like the guy came. She's like, he came, and I'm like, so he didn't install. Like, I didn't let him in the house. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I didn't let him in the house. I'm like, why? Like, because you weren't home.
I'm by
Like, I'm not gonna
myself.
I'm not gonna let a man in my house now. And I was like, wow. And then now I thought back to that. I'm like, that I didn't know that I needed that, but I'm glad that I wanted, because now I know, right? Like, and I wasn't even mad at him. I was like, I respect that so much more, And now I know when I do appointments and stuff, I'm never going to say somebody else when I'm at home. I got to be there because I understand and I respect it, and I needed that. And that's building the trust, right? Like, and all that stuff in those relationships, like you said. So we got to go through those things and knowing how women are strong and because of those things with their dad, right? Now, going back to that, because I know, like you mentioned, this part, like I wanted to go into the topic, like you said, when you were a dancer and that's part of life, right? For what, if you may ask, like how did you get involved? Like what drove you to that course? Like what was that driving decision, or where were you in your life that was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
To become a male entertainer,
Yeah.
like a dancer.
Yeah.
Um, well, if we're gonna go down that rabbit hole, we might as well just go balls deep, okay? Because we about to everybody brace on tight, okay? So me, I didn't know I had trauma from my dad passing away. So the way that my dad passed away, like I said, I was this little girl. I mean, imagine yourself having a little girl, right? You were maybe like 31, 32, and you have a daughter, and she is your smallest daughter. She's just, she's 8. She's about to turn 9. It's Wednesday. And then on Friday, you tell her, hey, we're going to go get ice cream, right? And then you are an alcoholic. You are on drugs. You're selling drugs. And you're trying to provide for your wife and your other 6 kids. But this little girl has your heart, right? And this is your little girl. So you tell your little girl, hey, like, I'm going to go and get your ice cream. But you know that you're involved in some shit. And so then they kill you the day that you're going to take her out for ice cream, 2 days after her birthday. And this little girl, you don't know what happens to her, but, you die. And so that was my story. My father passed away like 3 days after my birthday. And I had just turned
So
9.
sorry.
It's okay. It still touches me, and I get a little emotional, but the way that impacted me was so sudden. I lost my father. He was my protector. He taught me a lot. I'm not an emotional gangster. It gets deep, but when he passed away, I went through a lot of trauma. I lost the person that was always cheering me on. I lost the person who taught me a lot about how to be a child that was going to be responsible. He would wake me up in the morning. He would take me on bike rides. We would go walking together. Like, I would go to work with him. And when that person went away forever, not only did I have to spend most of my time by myself because I had to move in with my mom, but I started developing trauma of abandonment. And so when I started getting into an adulthood, I started finding love in the wrong places with men. And so one of those occasions was I started dating somebody that was older. And I always like older guys because I felt like they provided security. They provided, like, I guess, daddy issues. They provided that security, that safety. They were more stable. And there was something that I just liked about older men. And so one of these older guys, he was, I think, like 27, and I was like 19, 20. And I started dating him. And I thought that I had to fit into that wife kind of role, right? And so he eventually left me. And I was working at a restaurant, and I left my job to be his stay-at-home wife. And then we broke up for some stupid stuff. And we're left with an eviction in my door. I had 2 kids. They were 1-year-old twins, and I was only like 19. And the landlord came, and he was like, hey, you have 3 days to evacuate the building, or I'm going to have to evict you. And I was like, I don't have money. He was like, well, you're going to have to leave, and I'm going to give you 3 days. And so when he did that, I had to find a way to make money. And I went to my local strip club, and that's where I went. And I was like, hey, I need a job, like, today. They're like, have you ever stripped? I said, never. And they're like, well, the girls can teach you. You can just go get some shoes. We have some shoes here. And that's how I started dancing. I was very insecure. I was not in the best shape of my life to be a dancer. A lot of people, they look at me and they're like, wow, you look, so amazing. I bet you make a lot of money. But I'm like, going through that journey of being a dancer was like super tough. Like super tough, Freddie. I would not like wish that upon anyone, because the fact that you have to not degrade yourself, but you know you're degrading yourself when you have to dance for money for
Mhm.
men. And it's like a lot of these times I had to get drunk to deal with that because I was like, it would just fuck with me so bad on another level that it felt like a nightmare. Like I have PTSD just thinking about going back to dancing. Like if I like, I would much rather go and work for corporate somewhere than to go and be a stripper. Like I would never do that again to myself.
No, and it's a lot, and I appreciate you opening up and sharing that, right? Because I think it's another thing that people need to understand that side of the story, right? Like this is somebody's daughter, somebody's mom, sister and stuff, and it's not like I think it's very, and you correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because you live in that lifestyle, right? But I think it's very, very rare for somebody to choose that profession, like because they want to, like it's like, oh, like it's like their dream job, or because it's some, it's from 9 times out of 10, it's out of necessity, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's the only thing that you feel that you have a value, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, and I can see like again how traumatic it is because then you're having to put a price on it, right? Like an
Yeah.
actual dollar amount on it. And the people always say like, human life is priceless, but in your sense, like I'm literally putting a dollar to it, like,
Yeah.
and people need to understand that concept. So I appreciate you, just opening up and sharing that side of you. But and the other part I kind of want to touch on that because, like you said, because I think you said you thought about like that for your dad, and what he meant to you was that helped you leave that situation, right, and move on. So how was that, or when did that? What occurred that day? Like, was it just an instant moment? Was it just things leading up to that, or what helped you move on?
To move on from that lifestyle,
Hmm.
I was in that lifestyle since I was like 19. So I left when I was 20, 25. I think it took like 6 years of my life to get out of that. I went through all the phases. I went through the phase where I enjoyed it because I was making money, much, much more money than I was making at the restaurant. I went through when I started drinking at 21, I went through the phase of drinking. I went through the phase of doing ecstasy. And I feel like all those moments had to happen in order for me to be like, this shit has to stop. I feel like you wouldn't be like, you'll be very surprised. But when I was making the most money, I was the most depressed. I
I believe it.
remember, I remember leaving like my hometown to go strip in another city. Was I leave my kids behind for a whole weekend, and even though I was making like all my money in like 3 days for the whole month, it just felt so shitty. Like, how can I explain this, Freddie? Those moments that led me to for me to grow up and let go of that lifestyle. A lot of times they say she don't want to be saved, don't save her. You cannot save a stripper if she doesn't want to be saved. You cannot take her out of the streets if she doesn't want to go out of the streets. Like this woman has to get herself out of those streets and find a way to get out, because when you take her out, guess what, she's going to end up right back in because she still wants to go back. I mean, you need to go through those struggles. You need to see the nasty in that industry so you can be like, damn, this shit has to stop for real. I mean, there was so many times where life smacked me to like smack out of it, but I couldn't snap out of it because I was still so addicted to that lifestyle, the fast money and the traveling to here and there, and it's just money comes, money goes kind of thing.
Right, right.
Um, so I think that the moment that I had to shift my perspective was when I was sick of my own shit, Freddie. I was tired of being drunk, and I was over it. I was like, I don't want to be drunk anymore. Like all day I'm drunk. And if I'm not drunk, I'm hungover. And I'm not hungover, I'm drunk. And so in order for me to be in a good mood, I had to be drinking. And so I think that it was like a wake up call. Like I was just not happy.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I think everybody says that, right? Like, oh, why am I going through this negativity? Why I'm going through this bad thing, right? I think if people want to believe in the God or in the higher power, the universe, whatever you want to believe in, or whatever you want to call it, right? you know, it's gonna keep giving you pain, right? Like that's the lesson you need to learn. You're gonna keep experiencing pain and more intense pain until you adapt and move out of that situation, right? Like life will continue to make you extremely uncomfortable, and you change it. One of my favorite analogies, right, is the lobster analogy, right? Like you look at a lobster, and as it's starting to grow, its exoskeleton gets really tight, right? So it can't do anything. It's only when it gets so tight that it goes off into like a little hole, sheds its outer skin, become extremely vulnerable, right? Because it doesn't have its exoskeleton skin. while it grows another one. But it has to get under extreme pressure, extreme uncomfortable in order to change. And that's the same thing for us. Sometimes we have to go to these really, really lows to be like, yo, I do not want to feel this anymore. I do not want to. Now I need to do something different and force you. And until you don't make that move, until you don't wake up in a sense, you're going to continue to feel that pain. You're going to continue to stay in the
Yeah.
same spot, you
Yeah. I
know?
mean, there was times I woke up with anxiety. Like I didn't even wake up from anxiety. I was just drinking all night, and I would just like me like how can I can't put it in words, Freddie. It's like it's traumatizing. Like drinking all day and then seeing the days go by and you don't sleep and you're just like on drugs, like that is a fucking nightmare. Like it gives me anxiety. I can't I can't do it. I don't know how to put it. Like I had to really go through that uncomfortable pain for me to be like, I am freaking tired. Like I'm willing to do anything at this point to get out of this rat race. Like it really needs to get to that point. Like you said, it needs to get to extreme pressure because we'll get to uncomfortable and then we'll get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
And then we'll just go back into our old ways and we'll be like, oh, this is not that uncomfortable. And then it's like being hungover and being drunk every day is not uncomfortable. So let's try being on drugs now. And it's like you get comfortable with being uncomfortable with that. And
Mm-hmm.
so it has to be extreme. I guess everybody has their own tolerance. It doesn't
Right.
have to get like that for everyone, but I feel like everybody has to go through that, like you said, uncomfortable pressure to finally just break free.
Yeah, and there's this quote, and I just know it's going around. I forgot her name. I know it's this black actress. And she was saying that, when you sit and shit for so long, it stops to smell.
Yes.
And I was like, oh wow, like you know what I mean? Like that, like you just saying, you're getting just so uncomfortable with it. And as I said, that's why I said like life will give you a harder challenge. Like, oh, you're comfortable now. Let me see how much more uncomfortable I can make you. What is your breaking point? I'm gonna test you
Mm-hmm.
until you break and move on and do that, right? And it's just like a lot because I want to kind of go back to it. I know you're saying that, like you said, dating an older man, like when your dad passed away so young, and living the lifestyle on people that don't want to be saved. My cousin, I got a cousin, care about her so much, right? My little cousin, and her dad, my uncle, who I love also dearly, he's been in and out of jail a lot, right? And it's to the point like we kind of just, say it got to the point where like when he's out, we're like, oh, he out on vacation, right? But you know what I mean? Like it's just a little vacation, like it ain't permanent, again, right back in again. And I know that affected her, but like I seen the daddy issues in her too, and her always seeking older men and like and again, like not to throw nothing at her because I understand where it comes from, but the guy that she's with now is actually even older than her dad. You know what I mean? Like, he's older than her dad. You know what I mean? Like and I understand where it's coming, and the reason why it pains me is because I know I see her value. I know what she's worth. I know what she's capable of, but she don't see it, and it
Right.
frustrates me. And I got to the point where I had to tell her, I said, listen, I can't do this no more. Like, I'm not going to hit your complaints and all this stuff. Like, I've given you advice, tips, help, gone out of my way, and you continue to do the same thing. You don't want to be saved. So
Don't
do
save
not
us.
call me no more. Don't call me no more. Don't ask for help. I don't want to hear it. You need to get yourself out of the situation because I'm done.
Yeah. That's what
You
you got to
know?
do. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is nothing. Let them
Yes.
drown. Let them figure out how to swim.
And it pains me, but it's just it was stealing my peace, right? Like you were saying
It's
before,
stealing from
stealing
you.
my energy and my joy, and I can't have that no more, right? And,
No,
I- and,
of
I, and
course
I
not.
couldn't do it, and I care about it so much. But like I said, that's why I bring it down. So, and I'm so glad that you're here and talking about because, again, like dads, and this is why I wanted to take there because as a man, if you're gonna be a dad, if you're gonna sit down and lay with a woman, know that there's a possibility of a child coming out. The
Yeah.
only way to prevent having a kid is by not having sex at all. Period. Right? Like we know
Amen.
that condoms break. There's all sorts of kinds of things happen. Like you know what I mean. Like you do it, there's a chance, and you need to mentally be prepared. And I'm saying this for as a man, as mentally prepared to be ready to accept whatever comes out of that, right? And whatever comes out and be there,
Take
right? Like I've
responsibility.
listen, I've lost friends over that at a very, very young age. You know what I'm saying? We was in high school and we was chilling with one of our dudes, like everyone, and he had one of those girls that we got pregnant, right? We didn't find out she was pregnant literally 1 month until before the baby was due. And we hung out with her every single day. Every single day we was all hanging out, chilling. And we didn't know until 1 month before she gave birth, right? But when she told us she gave birth, we all went to the hospital. We were all there. But this dude was nowhere to be found. nowhere to be found. And we're
Shut
all looking
up.
at each other like, yo, bro, like where you at? Like, nope. So we're like, we go on a manhunt. Like, your kid's being born. Like, like, what are you doing? You got a son coming into this world. He at the YMCA playing basketball. Like, bro, like you do know, like your son is being born right now. Like, what are you doing? Like, granted, yeah, we're 17 years old, but like, one of my boy, the one who stole from me and gave me $1 back, he's younger than all of us, right? And he's there. He's 15 years old. He's like, yo, why aren't you at the hospital? Your son's being born. You know what I mean? And he was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna be over there. We going." I was like, "All right, fine. We're gonna go back to the hospital and we'll meet you there because, like, we need to see our nephew, man. Like, baby was born, still nowhere to show up. We go to his house. He's pulling up with his new girl, getting out the car, and I'm like, bro, like, we went in on him. Like, you some. And after that, like, we was like, you're not the type of man we're gonna roll with. Like, we can't associate with you, like, girl. Like, I'm sorry.
Let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing. As as somebody who's like, I didn't lose my father because I he left me or something, right?
Right.
My father wasn't there for me, and I'll tell you, like, I had daddy issues, I had trust issues, I built walls with men. Like, I can't trust men to this day. That's something that I'm working actively on. I always feel like men have like a hidden agenda for some fucking reason, and they're after me like the Illuminati. Like, I have my guard with men, and it's something that I'm trying to work towards because not only like did I build those walls because I lost the father figure that I had, right? For one, when you have a father around you, men are less likely to fuck with you because they're like, no, her dad's gonna either beat my ass or he's gonna be there like talking to me when I pick her up. Okay. And if she doesn't have a father, I saw that a lot of my friends that had dads, they're more likely to get married than women that don't have dads because we have either daddy issues, we have trust issues, we date older men, we date men that we're not even supposed to be dating, and we're out doing stuff that we're not even supposed to be doing at a certain age because we don't have that person in our household or in our lives to tell us, hey, don't be doing this shit like this. And when a mom gives you advice, I think it's very different than when a dad gives you advice. Because when your dad gives you advice, I mean, my dad I was never there for him to give me advice like that or dating advice. But I can tell you, like, I had some men in my life that were kind of like father figures. And when they told me something, I was like, all right, listen, like, it made me so uncomfortable. I'll tell you one thing. It was so hard for me to listen to any of my boyfriends or be submissive. Not submissive, but yeah, submissive. I had to be the dominant one. I had to be the one to always take the lead, take the role. Because I was like, I'm the one with the balls. I'm the one with the pants, right?
Right.
And I didn't have a space to be vulnerable or to be submissive because I always saw my mom as the role model. So my mom was the one with the pants. So I thought all women had to have the pants, including me. So when I started seeing it from a different perspective, like, hey, you know what? In order for me to be a good wife, I need to learn how to be submissive and I need to learn how to shut the hell up. Because sometimes we could just talk and think we're right. And sometimes it was crazy because the last person I dated, I was like, you know what? You're right. I was like, what the fuck? Like, and this at the time when I was learning more about myself. When I told him, you know what? You're right. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. He just freaked out. He was like, what the hell was going on? Like, I thought you were just, and I think that he was so used to other women. And I think that that's the other spectrum of it. Like, he had mommy issues. So he
Mm-hmm.
expected me to be like, no, I am right, And so I think that as somebody who didn't grow up with a dad, like, I had a lot of trauma that I didn't even know about. So when I had to unpack all that mess, I was like, holy shit, this is deeper than I thought.
Yeah.
Like, me even being like and it goes way deeper than that, Freddie. It goes like, oh, it's Father's Day. I'm the mother and the father in the role. Happy Father's Day to me. Like, bitch, shut up. Like, you are not a man. You can't do what men do. Like, men can do certain things the way they can. And when you start looking at yourself as a woman and start taking that space as a woman and be feminine, even if it's like opening your own door, like, hey, babe, can you get my door? Hey, babe, can you get the groceries?
Mm-hmm.
Like, things like that. Like, I feel like you let yourself be feminine and you give yourself more space to be more vulnerable rather than taking the lead all the fucking time, because men want to feel like they're needed. Men
Yes.
want to feel like they can be part of this life or with you, even though, and we had the conversation with Can I Get Some Podcast. They were saying his conversation was independent versus self-sufficient. What is the difference, right? When you are an independent bitch that doesn't need a man and I'm so fucking bossy, and I wrote my own shit. you tend to get in your own way and you tend to sabotage your own success in your relationships because you're like, I don't need a man. I can do this on
Hmm.
my own. I don't fucking need you. And then you get rid of men like they're disposable. And sometimes you get rid of good men without even knowing it because you don't even allow them to speak because you're the one that always wants to be in control. You always want to talk your ass off without letting the man say, hey, you know what? Like, she doesn't even want me here. Like, what's my purpose here? Like, I'm not even needed.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this, right? And with your ex that you said who had the mommy issues, was his dad present? Do you
Not
know?
really. Not really.
And here's why. Okay, then I'm loving. I gotta go to my psychology thing, but here's what I'm seeing, right? And same thing like with single moms, right? If you're a single mother and you're raising either a young man or a young woman, you give off this persona, right? Like you have to, out of necessity, be the breadwinner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be independent, be strong, be careful who you let into your child's life, be protective. So you're always in command, right?
Mm.
So for women, right, as yourself, right, when you see that, you develop that same persona, right? Like, because I see my mom doing this. This is what a woman looks like. I need to do this, right? I need to take on this role and do all these extra things, right? From a guy standpoint too, like then it just becomes almost okay, like I don't have to do all these things because she's a woman. She could do these things, you know, she could wear the pants and all, you know what I mean? Like, and you lose that sense of, you know, nurturing, right? Or like trying to comfort them or be there, right? Like, you know, and it's a very, I was talking about this earlier this week. It's a delicate balance, right, of what's going on. And I think I shared the story with you too. I love my wife, right? Because she's very strong, very, very independent, knows what she likes to do, right? And but I also like again, it was something so simple. Like the other day, we had the washing machine that went down, right? And I'm, you know, trying to talk to her like, hey, this, that, or whatever. And she says, hey, you know what? You know the technology and stuff, and but like you know, I know you're gonna make the right choice. And I was like, yeah, I was like, all right, yeah, I got a mission now. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm about to, I went, I got the watch, and like, look, this one
You're
got
like,
Bluetooth and it's enabled and we could test it and this, that, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm giving all the perks and all this stuff. And I'm like, so, and I've been doing laundry every day. Like ever since I'm doing laundry, you know what I mean? But you know what? Because she gave up, right, a little bit of that stuff. Let me take control and take the lead. Because we do as men, and we do need that. We need to feel like we're in control and taking the lead sometimes. Not all the time. We also need to listen and adapt, right? It's a joint effort, right? You know, there's times when I am clearly wrong and I need to understand that. And there's also too when she's wrong and she understands and says, hey, you know what, I'm wrong. And it makes it a lot better. I don't look at it any different or any less stuff like that, you know, but I appreciate that, you know, you giving me the time to me take the lead and take control and give me that respect and vice versa, right? But I've seen that,
yeah,
like I said, in that case is when guys or women, when you have a single mom in there, and again, out of necessity, they have to take on more of those masculine traits. And when you're from those sex, right, as a woman, if you see that, then you become more masculine, right? And then as a man, you become a little less masculine because you associate it with the feminine, right? Like it's not that
yeah,
you know it's because you're associating with a woman trait, not a man trait, right? Because you don't see
yeah.
that. So and that's why you gotta be careful who you choose and who you bring into your life and all those things. So I think it's very, very cautious and doing those now with you and say bringing about people into your lives and where you are and everything that you've been through now, the whole dating process and with your kids, you know, how does that work? I mean, do you feel the need to well, the number one question is right. How soon do you feel is right to introduce them to your kids or bring up to your kids and into the relationship?
I'm very open with my kids. I knew that I was gonna be, and and I'm gonna be very honest. Like, I can't lie to you guys. I fucked up the relationship with the father of my kids because I was not mentally prepared. I was not a good woman. I was not a good partner. I was young, and I had kids, and I'm not gonna blame it on me being young, but I was not thinking straight. So
Mhm.
I was a cheater. I was a liar. I was an excuse maker, and I just wanted to go out and party. And I didn't see the value in being in a relationship with him because I saw my mother do it with six kids, right? And I'm not gonna blame it on my childhood trauma, but this is how it played out in my brain.
No, absolutely,
If
right.
my if my mother could do it with six kids, I could do it with two. And so that was my mentality. And so me sabotaging our relationship because he wanted me to be a stay-at-home wife. He was like, you can stay home, I could take care of you and the kids, and we can live with my mom and we can be great together. But me, I was like, I want to go party. And my mom do it by herself. I could do it by myself. So when I sabotaged our relationship, I sabotaged every other relationship because the same mentality kept playing. I can do it by myself. I can do it by myself, right? And so when I finally broke that story down, I was like, damn, like I actually do want somebody. I don't want to end up alone. Like I'm not saying that my mom put bad values in me, but she always taught me that you really don't need a man, right? Maybe she likes to be alone. She doesn't like to date men. She's very old school. She only had one partner, which was my dad. After that, she was by herself. So I don't want to end up alone. Like, I actually wanted somebody, so I had to figure out how to be that person that could have a partner, right? And it's it's very interesting how we're going into like the relationship part and how all these things play out. But when I knew I was going to start dating people, I was very honest with the kids. I was like, listen, I'm going to start dating people. I don't want you guys to come in the between, because you guys need to learn that mom is going to find a partner, and he's not going to be your dad. Like, he got married already. So I was like, you're not going to work. I'm not going to break him up from his family, right? So when they understood that, they understood like, hey, you know what? Mom's gonna, we're all gonna go have dinner with a friend. So we would have, dinners here and there. And they would tell me, I don't like the way he acts, or, oh, he's a little weird, or, oh, he looks dirty. Like, they would tell me. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, now we know. So if my kids told me like, hey, mom, we just didn't get a good vibe from this guy, like, let's just not have dinner with him again. I was like, hey, I'm sorry. Just, it's not going to work out. I don't feel comfortable with you and my kids around. So though most men understood, they were like, okay, yeah, cool. But it was never something like I had to hide it from my kids. Like, oh, my dating life is so secret. They actually I actually needed their feedback. Like, hey, what do you feel about this person? Because the most honest people in your life are going to be those that are always around you. The ones that they could help me vet my partners. And so when my kids were like, we had he was a good conversation on this, but I felt like he was trying too hard. My kids were always very honest, very, very honest. Obviously, we were always more like friends rather than like exclusive boyfriend, girlfriend, come sleep over, I sleep over, we just move in together type of deal. Because I just didn't feel comfortable. I mean, I have a little girl. Anything can happen, right? Like, I was a victim of sexual abuse with my stepdad. So I always had that in the back of my mind. So I was like, no, like, you can't come sleep over. I don't want anybody in my house where we live. We can go have dinner. We can go to, I don't know, main event or whatever. But I always incorporated my kids in my dating life, because they were the ones that were going to have to share eventually my time with that person. And so when my kids didn't get like a good vibe from I've only had 2 relationships after the father of my kids, but one of them, they were like, we don't like this guy. We don't like this guy. And so I kept seeing those signs, and they were like, we just don't like him. Like, he's this, he's that, he does this, and we just don't like it. We don't like him to come over. And so that's when I was like, hey, listen, we have to just break up. And I knew that it was going to cause some friction, which it did. It took me a long time to finally like separate myself from that person, mentally, emotionally, because I really did like him. But I knew that if my kids were telling me like, hey, this person he does things that we don't like maybe he raised his voice or something, I was like, yeah, listen, like, it's not good for us. So I don't think I ever hit it. I was just very honest with them, and I would try to validate their opinion, because sometimes as parents we go out and we date people without validating our children's like opinion, and then they're the ones that are like, fuck this guy, like, I don't like him. Like, I always had a bad feeling, and then things happen, and then you're like, damn, I should have listened to my kids.
Because I was gonna ask that too. I mean, like, I was leading into that, having them involved, like, would that feel, and that is right. If you really like somebody and you feel like you're really vibing, and you as a whole like felt that this person's right for you, but your kids felt some sort of way, how would that? Because again, I've seen that, right? Like, I've seen in some cases where the mom wants to stay with this guy, and the kids, they don't like it for some reason, and it just causes tension in that end, and it's like, then my mom didn't not love me enough to stay here.
Yeah.
But I guess it's very, I guess, difficult balance in that, right? Like, how do you find your happiness in that? Like, how do you do that? Like, again, like, let's say you get with somebody, and you're raising them with your kids, and then they're in there, and he disciplines your son, like, not doing his homework or something like that. And he's like, well, he raised his voice at me, and I didn't like that. And would that lead to that, or is it a conversation where, like, you didn't do your homework? And how do you have that conversation? Because knowing that this technically isn't your dad, but he's trying to be the right thing. Like, how does that play into those things?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that question, because I was actually going to lead the conversation in there. If when, and this is what I have done for my family household, and this is what has worked so far. I never let any of my last 2 boyfriends discipline my kids ever. I was not, because the last person and I'm being honest here, I've only dated like 3 people after the father of my kids, and I would say like dated the past like 3 months. But it wasn't like where we lived together. Only one of them did. And when he tried to discipline my kids, I was like, listen, these are the rules before we even move in together. You don't spank my kids. Nobody disciplines the kids physically except for me. And that is because I have to take the discipline in this, right? Unless we're married and you put a ring on my finger and we live under your household, then you can take the role and say, hey, listen, I'm going to take the father figure. We need to have a sit down and we need to talk about these things, right? And kids are old enough to understand this. Also, if the father of the kids is still alive and well, I would never like prohibit them from being in his life. So I would always push like the summer vacations and the holidays and try to co-parent as best as we can just to make sure that the kids have like both parents. And I was like, hey, if you ever need any man advice, go ask your father. He's a phone call away. And so we made that very, very clear. But if the father of the child is not present, it's a good conversation for you to have with your girlfriend. Say, hey, listen, now that we're moving into serious things and I'm starting to sleep over and I'm staying more, what are the parameters, right? And so I think that the biggest conversation you can have is, hey, who is going to discipline the kids? What am I allowed to say? Listen, so and so did this. How should we fix it? And I feel like as a team, not like, hey, your mom's not here. Hey, you know, you little shit, and you start cussing the child out, because then the child's not going to like you. And it's not you winning the child over or being a two-face whenever the mom's not there, because you want the mom to trust you to leave you alone with the kids, right?
Absolutely.
So the conversation should be had like, hey, who's going to discipline the kids? How do you discipline your kids? Do you feel comfortable if I tell them something? And another thing is like, how do you express yourself about my child? If I see that the person's like, oh, you know, these fucking kids are so fucking dirty, like, you automatically out the fucking door. You're not going to disrespect my child or me in my house. You're going to talk to my child like if it was your child, because when we have a child, I don't want you to, I want to see what your parenting skills are with my children, that they're not yours. And if everything goes well, we'll have a child together. But that, I feel like you wouldn't want someone to like talk down like that to your child. So I think like the last 2 partners, I was like, hey, listen, this is how it's going to play out. You don't touch my children. You know, I never left them unsupervised, because I always like that thing in the back of my mind, you know, it was not like I was very like paranoid about that. But I feel like now that I have gained trust with this person, we always talk about the, okay, they did this. This is going to be the solution. And I always say this, you cannot bring a problem without a solution. If you complain about the kids' room being dirty, what's the fucking solution? Are you going to help me clean it, or are you just going to complain about it, right? We have to come up with a solution together as a team, because these might be my kids, but this is our household. And you want to be part of this, you need to learn how to incorporate yourself and mold into the household and just be a unit, instead of being like, well, these are not my kids, I'm not going to discipline them, I'm not going to tell them shit. Like, no, you're going to be part of it, because in the long run, you want to have a child with me. How can I know that you want to have a child with me if you don't even know how to parent these kids and they're already, you know, here? So I think that's a big conversation to be had, and it has to be had. If you have a woman that has a child, you need to talk about, where's the father? Is he a present? Does he provide, you know, support? And if he's not supporting, can we get him to contribute? If not, what are going to be the terms of visitation? Is he going to come to the house, pick him up? You know, what are the things? Because there's a lot of single mothers out there, and I'll tell you one thing. Some women put their child on the side. They go with the man, they go hang out with a guy, and then the kid is like left behind. And they're like, well, you know, I don't want to like bring my son around a lot of men. But it's like, but then again, you're not there with your son. You're out with the man, and the child is just there. So when you are a single mom looking for a partner, you need to bring that child with you. You want to take me bowling? Bring my damn kids with me. Oh, you want to take me out to dinner? I'm bringing my kids with me, because that just shows what kind of mother you are. And if you're dating a woman that never brings her child around you, it's a good conversation to have. Hey, why don't you just bring your son around? Like, you know, I want to know. Like, oh, I just don't want her to meet you yet. Okay, or I don't want him to meet you. That's fine. But when you're consistently taking her out somewhere, let's go shopping, let's go to the movies, she never brings her kid around. One, I mean, she might be leaving those kids with her mom. She's not a good partner. Or 2, she just doesn't want you to meet them because you're not husband material. Either or.
Yeah, and that's one of my things, and I kind of like to touch on that too, is because I know, like, growing up and starting relationships and stuff, that kind of played into my mind, right? I was like, am I capable to have a relationship with somebody who already has a child, right? And it made me worry for a couple things, right? Like those are things too. Like I don't, if I'm treating him like mine, I'm not seeing that, then it's like I'm not going to kind of bite my tongue or kind of second guess in a sense. And not because I'm not, being disrespectful, because I'm really taking the role as they're mine. So I'm gonna treat him as mine through and through, whether you're here or not and all that stuff. But that may cause tension, right? Like, what I may do and stuff like, hey, that's my kid, like don't talk to my kid that way or don't discipline like that. This is not how I do things, and causing that rift. Then the other part that made me very nervous is because I knew that I wanted to be a dad so bad, right? And I wanted to have my own kids. That if I'm with somebody, right, and we have kids and we start raising them, and then we have a kid of our own, would I subconsciously treat them different because this one is
Yeah.
officially mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to play favorites. And I thought about that because again, like I have my brother, right, in between me and my sister, right, and my mom never treated him any different, right? She always called him his son. We would go when we go to Puerto Rico. She would go to this woman's house and pick him up, and we go. It was always utmost respect, right? So I got to see a lot of the positive sides with like so my immediate and personal relationship with step parents or that co-parent type thing was always a positive one. But I guess I'm seeing here and seeing society and how much negativity spreads, and I don't want to deal with a crazy baby daddy, right? Like
Mm,
I don't want to again, like if I'm like talking to him or trying to discipline or teach him a certain way, that you come and be like, that's my kid. I don't want you doing it that way. And
yes.
that's causing a problem because like if you're with me, then you should trust me enough, I feel like, right, to be able to handle those things. So those were my I guess my reasons why I was like I don't think I'm able to do that because I wouldn't want to cause harm to either one of these kids, right,
Mm-hmm.
unintentionally, because again, one is mine and one technically isn't. So how does that, like, would did that ever like worry, like you said, I know you kind of touched on it like too, like if they have your own kids, so how would that work with you?
Well, I'll tell you this much. Dating a single mom is not for everyone. And it's okay. It's okay. Like a lot of men don't feel comfortable with it and some men do and some men don't. Like it's not for everyone. I'll tell you that much because a lot of times we're just different. And I mean, as a single mom, I never took it offensively. I always made sure that they knew I have two kids. Sometimes I would even like be like, "Yeah, I got two kids and a dog and two snakes. What's up?" And they were like, uh, it's a lot. And I was like, I get it. It's a lot. Like, I know what I bring to the table. But let me just tell you, I'm not here to be just eat off your table because I got my own table. You can come and eat with us. You can be part of our table. It's not like I'm bringing, and as a woman, I could tell you, like, that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to date when I was also a dancer because I also knew, like, I'm a dancer. What do I have to bring to the table? I don't got a house. I don't got like a stable job. I don't have like nothing but this. So I want to make sure that when I come into a relationship, I want it to work out because I already know what it has done for me in the past when I don't have anything and they just see me as a dancer. They think that I want to live off of them, right? So I'll tell you this much. It's not for everyone and it's okay. Like as a mom, you just have to understand it's not for everyone and you're going to be okay. There's going to be men out there that love women with kids because they see that you're responsible. They know that you're stable. They know that you are either a good parent, that you can keep a child alive and well fed. And sometimes, you know, if the other person is like, listen, I want to have my own kid, that's the first thing you should have in a fucking dinner when you go for your first date. Because it's going to set the parameters. Listen, I want kids. You don't want kids. Why are we here? Because in the long run, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, no, we don't want kids. And then all of a sudden, maybe he just wants to have your kids. And then you're like, oh, I just want another one. And then he's going to be like, and he's going to just pull off the driveway and he's just going to go somewhere else. And you're going to be stuck there 3 years into the relationship thinking like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Well, you lied to this man. You say you didn't want any more kids and all of a sudden you do. And so I think that that's one of the number one conversations you should always have with someone. Like there's a lot of questions you should have as a single mom. You should have a lot of questions written down on this first date. Not to say that you're going to just sit here and waste time, right? Because you also want to know that you are asking the right questions to the right people. And if they don't want to have like another child, that's cool. But if they do want to have another child, like it's a good conversation to be had in the first date. And I also think like it's in the women's head. Like, hey, what if we have a child and he treats it different because it's his, and he starts treating my kids different because they're not his kids? Like it also goes through our mind. And so that's one of the things that I also saw growing up with my sister. She had another child with another man, and then she got together with this guy, and she was worried that that was going to happen. And it was like a very early on conversation that they had, like, hey, do we want to have kids like again, or How is this going to work? And also as a tip, right? If you're a single mom and you're having this issue with your man, or you're a man, you're having an issue with this girl, tell her like, hey, am I part of this family? Because I feel like whenever you say my kids, I feel excluded. Is it going to be our family, our children, or is it going to be your house, your kids, your family? Because I'm just like the outsider coming in.
Right, right. And that's big. And I think like what as you were explaining it earlier, which is huge, is what you got to do with even if you have kids together, like even with my wife and I, right? Like when we have this with our kids, how are we going to handle this? How are we going to discipline her? What are we going to do? Like, I'm not comfortable with this. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, and then we go out and execute the plan. So I guess again, maybe there's guys who are out there maybe just overthinking it. I guess
Mm-hmm.
probably that's what it is too. I think ultimately with anything, right, it's open lines of communication as you've been expressing, right? Like from the first day, like let me know what our do's and don'ts. Let's just be completely open, and see
Mm-hmm.
where this goes. And like I said, with my mom, like she always so open. And one thing that the
Yeah.
biggest quote that she'd always say that stuck with me is that she always says is that I would rather people hate me for who I am than love me for who I'm not.
Yeah.
You know what I
Facts.
mean? And I started to realize that because she's just herself through and through. If she's for you, great. Then you sit down and you sit around. But if not, then you just get up and move, right?
Exactly.
But you have to be willing to be open yourself and be vulnerable. And don't do that. Because like you said, if you start trying these lies or trying to, and I've done that too, like with relationships, you try to build a relationship on lies or different things or trying to let the other person hear what they want to hear,
Yeah.
you're ultimately going to suffer in the end.
Let me tell you
You
one thing.
know?
Not all women that have kids have baby daddy drama.
Mhm.
And not all men that have kids have baby mama drama. I think this is a good conversation to add in the beginning as well. Like, hey, what's the relationship between the father of your kids and you? Are you guys still together? Are you guys still trying things out? And be honest. Like, hey, you know what? We just slept together last week. Like, be honest. Like, if you're still messing with your baby daddy, that's fine. You guys had kids, whatever. You guys had the romance. But if it's still going on, don't lie to this guy. Because then guys, they take that and they're like, oh my God, all women are the same. All
Mhm.
mamas with kids have the same issue. They're all riled up in their baby daddy. And it's like sometimes the guys like move past you but they go into this mentality because somebody else lied to them.
Yeah, it
And
just
it's
takes
not like
one,
that.
right? It just takes one, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like a lot of times too. Like I was telling somebody else, like I've done it, right? And we everybody's done it. If you've been in a relationship, you've been in a relationship and you've gotten hurt, right?
Yeah.
And the only way you go into the next relationship, you have to be willing to get hurt again. It sucks,
Yeah.
but it's true. You have to be willing to get hurt again. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody's gonna do the same things to you. Everybody's the same. Like, and I've done it. Like I've been in relationships where I've seen the red flags and I'm like, this is a different person. You know what I mean? Like, and even though I
Yeah.
still found the same trap, but I was like, I gotta remember this is a different person. You know what I mean? Like,
You gotta
unfortunately,
give them
because
the
if I
benefit
keep
of the
doing
doubt.
right, because if not, then you're never gonna find love. You're never gonna find that happiness. So you have to be strong enough and vulnerable to be willing to get hurt and understand that, and play that game if you really want to find love. Right? And if you really want to find somebody out there, you got to continue to try and understand that not everybody's the same. Because it just takes one. Like even for myself, like I said, my relationships and interactions with step parents has always been positive. Even with
Yeah.
my sister and my brother-in-law, like they come over, like we've had like yeah, at one point like it was weird. People looking like, why is your baby daddy here at their kid? Because we're all family. Like we're beyond that. Like we're mature enough and we don't see it like that. We understand he's a good dude and then that's that. But then you see in the news or and then you hear that once, oh, so more baby daddy got so mad he came out and slashed all the tires and you immediately think like, I want a baby mama drama. I want a baby daddy drama. You know what I
Can't
mean? Like, I don't want
relate.
so and I think like you said that too, like as you mentioned, I mean it sounds like you guys have a really good co-parenting skills with you and your kids parents as being married and having that communication, which is great, right? Like I think it's because if when you do that, ultimately the kids suffer, right? Like I've seen it the
Mm-hmm.
other day, like I was and I didn't want to get like my neighbor, he's a really cool dude, right? And I talk to him all the time. I can't judge him, right? Like I think he's a great guy, and his baby mama came and they were I guess there's a custody battle going on and I seen him like explode in a way I've never seen him and grabbing the kid and telling him to go and I so deeply like what like do you see what he's seeing all of this like the way you're cheating like I know she might be in wrong but don't put your hands on her don't like try to shove you he's absorbing all this he's gonna think this is
Yeah.
okay you gotta and I didn't because again you just don't know what people's situations are you don't want to get involved in that stuff but people who are in have to realize that at the end of the day, even my mom always said, like, my brother didn't have a choice in being in this world. He didn't choose to be here. He didn't decide to appear out of nowhere. Like, so why should he have to suffer for
Yeah.
these adults' decision?
Let me tell you something. Let's normalize Co-fucking parenting, y'all. We're grown-ass people. If you were grown enough to spread your legs wide open, motherfucker, be mentally enough ready to say, hey, we're gonna raise this child together. And it might trigger you. I don't give a fuck. But you need to grow the fuck up already. You need to say, you know what? We had our differences, but this child needs us right now. This child needs both of us to put our efforts to get along civilly around each
Yes.
other, because they're watching us. They need us. They need you. They need me. We need to put our differences aside, and we need to be grown-ass people to get along. You need to, yes, somebody said, as long as the parents are teen child, it can work. Hey, fucking man, I'm so tired of this social media. Fuck my baby
Yes.
daddy. Fuck it. I'm tired of it. Like, I can't even go on TikTok looking at this because it makes me so mad that we just, oh my God, Freddie, I'm about to go in. We normalize toxicity. Oh, that's my toxic girlfriend. She's going to slash my tires. Ha ha ha. Don't answer her phone. Block her. Like, she's going to act crazy. LOL. That's not fucking normal. What
No.
is wrong with you? Oh, I'm just going to go break her windows, bleach his clothes because he cheated on me. You know what? Fold him up nicely. Put some Downy in him and put him in his house. Do not go crazy. Do not go out there fucking breaking windows like a psycho. Or I'm not gonna let him see his child because you know what? He left me. Like, girl, get over
Exactly.
yourself. This child needs his both parents. Y'all need to grow up. I'm tired of this. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm
And we see it
tired.
now, like, because as we going back, all this stuff and people using their kids as a
As a bait.
listen, perfect example, right? And then going back, like I kind of went through that, right? With an ex. I had my very first dog, right? My little boy and everything, right? And it was against, like, I knew, like, this is not where I need to be. Like, this person was able to make me come out of my character, like completely out of a person. I'm like, this is not healthy. Like, for somebody to have that much, I can't do this, you know? And I was like, I'm getting ready to leave and I'm getting ready to
Gaslight.
bounce, right? And she grabs my puppy and was like, "You not leaving with?" I'm like, "Give me my dog." He's like, "No, no, he's not leaving this house." I'm like, "Listen, if you don't give me my dog, we're gonna, like,
I'm
give
a
me,
boo-boo.
like, it's gonna get, you know." And it's just like that little minor experience that, like, really kind of messed me up. But it's like, don't, and again, it was just that, like, the things that I was going through my head that I was willing to do to get my dog back, to get my child, you know what I mean, to this person is not healthy. You
No.
know what I mean? Like, and it's so bad because, again, like, they're the kids, they're seeing it. So if you think, right, like, as a parent and you're feeling this pain and this hurt, you're watching your child who's seeing this and normalizing it, that's eventually they're going to grow up and feel that pain and hurt. You're a good parent. You don't want your kids to feel any type of pain, any type of, you know what I mean, and try to avoid that and learn and be well aware. Even like I said, me and, like, my wife, we get into, like, a different argument, stuff like that, let's take this away from the children. Like, we don't want them to see this. Like, we'll have our conversation, we'll talk, but they don't need to see this and grow up, because we grew up in that, right? I've seen my parents
Yeah.
growing up and fighting and hitting each other with bottles. I mean, like, going out all
Yeah.
out war, right? And
Yeah.
then, like, I'm lucky that I realized it wasn't normal. I want to change that, but some kids, they think that's the norm, and you know what? They grow
Yeah.
up and first thing they what smack their girl immediately because that's what my dad does. That's how you treat him. You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do? You
Yep.
know, we got to be
And
so
you know
so
what?
aware.
It's also the music that we listen to. Fuck these bitches. I'm gonna get some money. Fuck these hoes. Bend her over sideways, flip her like a tortilla. Like, dude, what are you fucking listening to? Like, and then the music that we're listening to nowadays is like, it talks about sex and how are you gonna treat women like hoes and bitches, and I got bitches to blow and all this crap. And I'm thinking, like, I get it, it's music, but it's gotten to a point where even the music videos are all about what? Women dancing naked for men and dollars. And what do? We normalize that. It's as somebody that was in the industry, I'll tell you how it gets engraved in your head and it becomes normal.
Look,
Like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't even want to go deep in this, Freddie, because I get so mad when people, like, they just, damn, like, oh man, like, they do shit around their kids and they hope that their kid turns out to be a civil person. But then when their child starts going AWOL on them at the age of 10, 11, 12, starts beating them up, it was like, why are you beating me up? Well, because my father did it to you, so why can't I fucking do it to you? And they're like, I should have never let him treat me like that around you. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You should have put some damn boundaries, and you should have walked away from that relationship the minute that person decided to threaten you by taking away your child.
and you have to know that, like, that's just you can't let anybody have that power. That's one of the things that I teach with my daughter and, like, my son and stuff. Well, even that, because she kind of understands. I teach her, listen, I want you to be in control of your own feelings. Don't come here talking about so and so made you sad or that person hurt your feelings. You control what you feel, right? Like, so you decide if you're gonna let what somebody else do make you feel sad, happy, or whatever. Because I want you to be in control of yourself, right? Don't be manipulated. That's my whole concept behind it. Like, don't be manipulated. And as you're saying that too, like, like all these guys. Perfect example, like all the music, like Blueface and his girl Christianity or whatever. I'm no okay. See, so you know exactly. See. And he's thinking, and I'm looking at, he's talking about all this stuff, right? These dudes talking about all this, like all these things about dancing and styles, and what they talk about the ideal woman is, and then they get mad because the girl can't cook. Like, she can't make you a bowl of cereal, and you mad, but like that's all you're advertising about, right? That's what it's all about, right? Guns, and this is what you want women to be like for you. No, right? Like, then you're gonna get mad because she can't cook, she don't clean, she all she want to do is be on TikTok, and now you want to be upset about it? No, it don't work that way, bro.
You know
You
what?
called to see yourself.
You know what? Okay, let's go deep into this because some men get mad and they might leave the chat and I don't give a fuck. But listen to me, you cannot go out there and claim to possess something when you don't possess it yourself. Wes Watson says this: love is a verb. You need to be able to possess what you want another person to have. If you
Yes.
have self-love, you need to be able to have self-love so the other person can have self-love. You cannot expect for your girlfriend to look like a motherfucking model when you don't even go to the gym. You cannot expect your girlfriend to be on her fucking A1, top 10, achieving goal, entrepreneur life, when you are a bum-ass person that lays in the damn couch all day, scrolling through Facebook, hoping that a miracle happens. It doesn't work like that. It needs to be reciprocity. You need to have the same thing that you want the other person to have. You need to be able to hone that in yourself to expect it from someone else. It's so ironic how people want, oh, they want a housewife, they want somebody that cooks and cleans and have their shit together, but they themselves don't even have a house to put that housewife in. Make it make sense, Freddie. Make it make
Yes.
sense.
Yes. And you know what? And it kind of goes back to everything that you're saying, right? Like having to grow and find yourself and change, right? And I think that's exactly what you did, right? You know, growing up, you went through that phase in your life, right? Losing your dad and then having that trauma and trying to find yourself and growing, right? And then out of that, you became now this fitness and nutrition coach, right? And all these things that are going above and this wonderful keynote speaker and things, you know, how did that transition start for you? You know, and how do you hope that how do you want to help other people find that? Like, how are they going to be able to find that?
How did I went from being an entertainer, alcoholic, drug addict to being a keynote speaker, certified fitness and nutrition coach? Well,
Absolutely.
I just did a whole 360, Freddie. I woke up like this. No, guys, it was a fucking long ass journey. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I was made of gold and that things fell into place. And that's how everybody sees. They're like, oh my gosh, she's good looking. Everything must have been easy for her. Actually, no. Everybody wanted to sleep with me. Everybody wanted to deviate me from my goals. Everybody wanted to just like use me. I guess it was like a curse and a blessing. Like, they were like, oh, she's pretty. Let me just go fuck her and like forget about her. And so I had to go through those hard times dating the wrong man and getting used by men, just to learn that, hey, you're worth more than this. Like, who do you really are, right? It took a lot of deep work, like knowing that I had trauma. Why am I dating these older men? Why can I, like, asking yourself these questions? Why can I date men my age? Why can I date within my same age range? What is it that I'm looking for, right? Like, at night, when you think about your life, what do you want to be remembered as, right? And I think that the shift for me happened like little by little by going through these pains and asking myself, why do things trigger me? Why when somebody says, hey, like, fuck bitches, get money, why does that trigger you? Like, why does it make you so passionate? Like, what's driving you to go for more? What is your purpose of living every single day? What are you going for? And so that's one of the questions I had to ask myself every day was, what is gonna be my end? Like, where am I gonna be at whenever I die? What do I want my kids to remember me as? If I were to die tomorrow, what's gonna happen to my children? Right? And I think that if it wasn't for my children, I would have been completely a different person. I would have been still in the streets. I mean, I dropped out of high school. I probably wouldn't have ever gone back. I probably would have been somewhere lost right now. But I think that the main driving force for me to shift my life like that and make something out of myself was the fact that I had to face my demons, Freddie. I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, you don't own property. You don't owe shit. You're just a pretty girl that's going to get old one day. You're going to get saggy. You're not going to be a stripper forever. Nobody's gonna want to date you. You're gonna end up alone. You're gonna end up on fucking homeless or something because you didn't even prepare for retirement. Is that really how you want to end? Like, is that really your purpose in life? And just own up to it and say, damn, like, just just really take that in and see if that's gonna be your purpose, if that's really, and be honest with yourself. Like, am I gonna go live with my children? Am I gonna be homeless? Am I gonna be broke? Am I gonna end up alone because I'm not gonna be able to bring a relationship to fruition because I'm just an asshole like that? And face your demons and fix yourself, right? Figure out, how can I make myself better? How can I stop being this person and be that person over there? Because I feel like once you really take accountability for your actions and for what you have become, because nobody's responsible for whatever you're going for. You are responsible for this shit. If you are going through some fucked up scenarios right now, it's because you put yourself through them. I didn't put you through them. Freddie didn't put you through them. Your mama didn't put you through them. You chose this life. You cannot say, oh, because the government, my family, you know, my past, my baby daddy, he did me wrong. I should have, somebody I could have, would have, should have, hypothetical. Like, shut up. Get over yourself. It was you. Like, you put yourself in this predicament. You just got to own up to it and say, fuck, yes, it's me. It's me. And when you start learning to say, yes, it's me, I am here because of this, that's the moment that you're really going to start shifting yourself, because God rewards you when you start taking accountability for yourself. He really does.
Yeah.
You have to first take accountability for yourself.
No, absolutely. You gotta know. I started saying something like years ago, right? Like, because I got to a point where things, like, I was in that state of mind, like, man, this is bothering me, this, that, or whatever, and I don't like this, and I don't like that. And then I just sat down to myself and I was like, yo, keep it simple. If you don't like it, change it. Like, if you don't like it, change it. You know what I mean? And it was like, just like that, it was like an aha moment. And you think that it's something that's so simple, right? But people don't realize it because, again, they're waiting to be saved, right?
For the
They're
right
waiting.
time.
Right. Like, and I love this. It was like this joke, right? Where this guy, right? He's out in the middle of the sea and he's drowning. He's fighting for his life, right? And he's praying to God. And then a boat comes by and he's like, hey, listen, do you need a hand? And he's like, no, don't worry. God's going to save me. Like, all right, comes back another one. Is they do you? No, God's going to save me. Fine. As God gets to the pearly gates, right? And he's like, dude, like, God, why don't you save me? Bro, I sent you 2 boats. Like, I mean, what else do you want me to do for you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to come down here and, like, like, you have to learn and seek those opportunities, right? Like, yes, I know we want to, and we all ask for a sign, right? We all do that, right? We all ask for a sign. But when you see it, move. Take action. Do something about it, right? Like, don't just sit there and like, oh yeah, that's my sign. Everything's gonna get. No, it's not gonna magically wave around. You're not gonna wake up and everything's gonna be better, right? You need to really take action and do that. And as you were going on saying something, it made me realize something with me and my wife, right? I know there's a lot of times where we got into things and she would say this, like, this is not the life that I want, right? And I was taking it personal in a way, right? Like, and I guess like feeling is more about me, but as you're kind of breaking it down and saying that, like, no, it's just like you said that, like, what do I want of me to become at the end of it, right? Like, it's not about, and I guess, and it always happens like that, right? Like, you hear it from somebody else and it kind of like makes sense, even though you know what I mean? Like, and I guess it's kind of like where I'm looking at, just is just seeing that passion, speaking that I kind of I understand a lot more where she's coming from, what she says. That's why I thank you for that, and then being like, so I love about these conversations. And man, I know we kind of going over and all stuff. I'm so sorry. I was trying to keep it within the hour, but it's like we're getting in there.
Tuning in. They're like,
yeah, people tuning in, and like I said, this is amazing, right? Like, this is a lot of people been asking for this conversation and having it, and I'm so glad to be able to speak with someone who has a lot of things that gone through things that I'm curious about, like, the co-parenting and the lifestyle and making those transitions and going up and everything. So I guess going on to, like, I know, like, I've introduced you, right? The fitness, and wellness coach, nutrition coach for women, right? Like, specifically for women, right? And is that just mainly because of, do you think, is it because you really want to empower women, or do you think it's still more of the hesitation of the fear of the guys part about it, or where does that separation come?
I don't understand, man. Men are weird. I mean, I personally, I can train a man. I just don't feel like driven to be like, hey, what's up? Like, wake up in the morning and let's do something, because I don't know what a man goes through, right? I know what women go through. Like, I know that, women don't have time for themselves. We always, as a mother, I'm telling you, we always put each other, like, we put ourselves we put our kids before us. We always, oh, who has to be fed? The kids. And guess what? What the kids eat, you eat. And guess what, motherfucker? You start looking like a damn kid yourself. You start looking big. You start looking saggy. You start letting yourself go. Because the kids are napping, I'm napping. So then your whole day goes by, and then you're sleeping all day, you're waking up all night, and then you're skipping your meals, and then you're running on 3 hours of sleep because your child was sick. So that's where the woman comes from, because I know how hard it was to be able to not only, I guess you could say, like, dating has saved my life, because I was like, how can I feel confident to talk to men, right? Considering that I was very shy because, I didn't, like, we were talking about fathers. I didn't have a father figure to give me that confidence to talk to men. And when I did, it was my stepdad, and he betrayed me by being sexually abusive to me, right? So I was kind of like pulled away from men. And so I was like, I want to learn how to be confident enough to talk to men. So I thought being hot was going to help me be confident. And it kind of did, but I still, like, I wouldn't go up to a man and be like, hey, what's up? You're so hot. Like, let's date each other. Like, it just gave me confidence to be good, like, good in my skin, and say, hey, you know what? Like, I feel good. I don't have to hide my body. Like, and when you're intimate with a man, like, they want to see you, and you don't want to be like, don't look at me, right? Because then you don't feel comfortable. Like, it's a really awkward situation. So I wanted to give the same gift to women. I was like, I want you to feel good naked. Like, I want you to go out there and be like, I feel good about myself with or without clothes. As a matter of fact, I don't even have to wear skin tight clothes, because I am so confident in how I look under this clothes. It doesn't even matter what people think. Like, I can wear whatever the hell I want. And I feel like every woman should have that power. And once you have that power as a woman and you're so confident, it's so liberating. Like, Freddie, it's just a great feeling when you can wear a sundress and not worry about how it looks. You're just like, you know what? I know how I look. Don't worry about it. Like, so I love that I can give that to women. And when I see them transform their lives and how they can wear bikinis now, and they're like, dude, I haven't been able to wear one in years since high school. It just, it makes me so happy. And then again, I was raised with like 5 sisters.
Right.
Shout out to all my 5 sisters. Oh my God. Living with 5 women in the household. There was never enough shampoo here, Freddie. Never. Hair ties were
Listen.
scarce.
Okay. So I used to call my house, right, the Underground Railroad, right? Because my mom and like everybody who was coming from Puerto Rico, right, to start a new life here would come through our house, right? So at one point there was like 6 or 7 women in the house, So I think that's also true. Like my dad was home, right, and he was there, but he was always to himself, right? Like, what I mean? Like I'd have to go find his attention, and he, like I said, I thank him the other day because it dawned on me that like what he taught me and what I saw from him was how to provide, right? Like he was just an instant provider. Like if we needed something, he'd go out and hustle whatever, get it, come back home, and that was it. But if I needed something, I could tell him what I needed, and I would get it, right? But a lot of women in the house, right? Like I said, like 6 or 7 women in there. And it's just chaos. Like in the morning, like my sister, I would unplug the blow dryer because I knew in the morning she would wake up with the blow dryer. Like I'm trying to sleep in. So I would like unplug it every morning, like at night, so that she like try to like French, like, why is this not working? So I can get like another 5-10 minutes of sleep. You know what I mean? Or
You're
again, like just
terrible.
the bathroom just I'm like, if I had to go to the bathroom, I had to make it quick, be in now because it's just a nightmare. Or like knowing again, like when they would all fall in sync with their periods and all that stuff. Like I went through that for months, so I just knew when it was and the highs and the lows, and got to read that. I got so well at reading it. My youngest cousin, right? I was sitting there, she was going through these things, and I told her, I said, yo, you gonna get your period this week. It's like, no, you said whatever, stop it. I was like, you gonna get your period this week. You going through all whatever. Couple of days later, like I hear her, she goes to the bathroom, starts screaming for her sister. She's like, oh my God, come here. And I go to the stairs. I told you, I knew it. I called you. So like you just kind of like,
But growing up with women is a different experience. When
yeah,
when men talk about like being raised with women, it's different. They know. They're like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, do you want like some Tylenol? What do you want? Like, they're more understanding and more capable of comprehending what goes on in a woman's life. Because it's not
mhm.
easy being a damn woman. Let me tell you, we push out a whole ass human, and then we're still expected to look sane and have a regular life and juggle a kid. And so if men could just get in our shoes, and I feel like COVID taught us a lesson of how to be a mother, because we all had to be home for 9 months. I don't know in your state, but in our state, we had to be locked up for 9 months. Now imagine doing that whenever you have a child. You have to stay home. You can't go out. You can't go drinking because you're always feeling sick. Like
I was home.
that's exactly how it feels to be a damn mom all day. So imagine doing that for the rest of your life for 18 years. So shout out to all the stay-at-home moms and all the women that are pregnant. Y'all need to be more